Greeting learners. In this lesson, we will talk about looping constructs available in C language. This lesson is split in two parts. The first part will cover the for looping construct, whereas the second part covers the while and do while looping construct. This lesson begins by setting the context for the usage of looping construct, followed by a quick discussion on the structure of the for looping construct. The entire behavior of for looping is regulated by its initializer, control and update sections, which is taken up next. The lesson concludes with the discussion of flow of execution of for loops. Let us start with setting the context for the usage of looping constructs. In general, in many programming situations, you need to execute a block of statement repeatedly for a certain number of times or until you get the desired result. Consider the problem of finding the average of n numbers input by the user. The simplest approach to this problem is to seek the numbers from the user, maintain a running total of the numbers input by the user, and finally divide the total by n to get the desired result, and then prints the desired result. This program is a naive implementation of this approach for the case when n is equal to 3. This implementation has a couple of serious problems. Firstly, it is not generic. This code is applicable only for the case when n is equal to 3. For a different value of n, the code has to be modified. Secondly, this code is going to grow to unmanageable size for larger values of n. Just imagine what will happen if the same program is rewritten for finding out the average of 100 numbers. With the above mentioned approach, your program will have more than 300 lines for the case when n is equal to 100. Obviously, this approach is very rigid and cumbersome and will lead to a bloated code, which will be difficult to maintain and is very much prone to bugs. Fortunately, C programming language comes with the provision of doing such repetitive tasks in a very simple manner. In the programming language, doing something repeatedly is known as looping, and the constructs which handle such looping jobs can be called as looping constructs. The C language has three different flavors of looping construct: the for loop, the while loop and the do while loop. Each of these looping constructs handle looping but with minor variations in the syntax and the context in which they are used. Using a for loop, the problem of calculating the average of n numbers input by the user can be rewritten like this. It is not difficult to observe that this code is generic in nature. In other words, it is applicable to all the values of n, and most importantly, the size of this code will remain the same for all the values of n. Now that we have seen the utility of the for looping construct, which is equally applicable to the other looping constructs as well, we can move on this with the rest of the discussion. Let us start with the discussion on the structure of the for looping construct. The general structure of a for looping construct consists of the for keyword, followed by a pair of common brackets. The pair of common brackets is followed by a pair of curly brackets which define the body of the loop. The body of the for loop consists of the statements which you want to be executed repeatedly. If there is only one statement which needs to be executed repeatedly, the curly braces can be dropped altogether and the single statement will become the body of the for loop. The pair of common bracket consists of a pair of semicolons in between them. The pair of semicolons divide the area in between the common brackets in three sections. Each section affects some or the other aspect of the flow of execution of the for loop. In order to understand the for loops, you need to understand the significance of each of these sections, and you also need to understand in what way they control the execution of the for loop.